$170 million. That is what the Islamic Republic of Iran is bleeding every 24 hours as you watch this. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent put the number on the record Tuesday. The terminal at Karg Island is choking on its own crude. The pumps are about to slow because the tanks are full and the tankers are not coming. And then, on the same day the regime was watching its oil revenue burn. The move Tehran spent 4 decades trying to prevent landed on official letterhead. The United Arab Emirates announced it is leaving OPEC. May 1st, the third largest producer in the cartel walked out of the room and slammed the door behind it. This is the single move the Ayatollah feared more than any American carrier strike group, more than any Israeli F-35 sortie, more than any sanction Washington has ever drafted. Because OPEC was the last room on earth where Tehran still pretended its richest neighbors were partners, that pretense is dead, and 5 other Gulf capitals are already lining up behind Abu Dhabi. If you are new here, this is the channel for people who refuse to take their geopolitics from a teleprompter. Hit subscribe and turn the bell on, because this story is moving by the hour. And drop one word in the comments below. Survive or collapse. That is the bet the entire war comes down to, and I want to know which side of it you are on. I read every reply. Pull up the Sentinel-2 satellite pass from April 15th. The smoke is right there, rising off the Karg terminal in the middle of the Persian Gulf. Every intelligence service on the planet is looking at the same image. The regime's oil heart is exposed, photographed from orbit, and there is nothing the IRGC can do about it. Anwar Gargash, senior advisor to the Emirati president, walked up to a microphone and broke 40 years of Gulf Iranian etiquette in a single sentence. "You cannot be attacked with 2,800 missiles and drones," he said. "And then talk to me about trust." He said it will take ages. The room understood instantly that something had just been buried. 2,800, aimed at a country that gave Washington no runway, no airspace, no part in the war Tehran was fighting. The IRGC dragged the Emirates in anyway, and more than 9 out of every 10 warheads were aimed at people who were not in uniform. The strategic calculation in Tehran was that pain would buy negotiation, hurt Abu Dhabi, hurt Dubai, hurt the malls and the apartment towers, and Washington would lose nerve. The opposite happened. The Gulf did not break. The Gulf walked into the United States Treasury and started reading account numbers off a list. April 28. The Office of Foreign Assets Control names 35 entities and individuals at the heart of what the Treasury calls Iran's shadow banking architecture. These are not couriers. These are the men who moved the money for the IRGC, for the Quds Force, for the missile assembly lines, for Hezbollah in Lebanon, for the Houthis in Yemen, for Hamas before October. The campaign has a name now. Operation Economic Fury, and the name is doing exactly what Treasury wanted. Every correspondent, bank in London, Frankfurt, Singapore, Hong Kong, is reading that press release tonight, and quietly, shutting down accounts they used to look the other way on. Touch an Iranian dollar in 2026 and you lose your charter in a Western capital. That is the new rule. For 4 decades, the regime ran the same trick over and over. A holding company opens in a Dubai-free zone with no real owner on the paperwork. A certificate of ownership sits in a drawer in Tehran. The bank account opens. The cargo of Iranian crude moves under a third country's flag. The dollars come back through 3 jurisdictions, get cleaned, and land in a wallet controlled by a Revolutionary Guard general's son in a London penthouse. That trick funded everything Tehran built outside its borders. The Financial Crimes Enforcement Network put a number on the trick. $9 billion in a single year, flowing through Iranian front companies based primarily in the UAE, $9 billion in 12 months. The Emirates were not a side route for the regime. They were the engine room of regime survival. And the Emirates just shut the engine off. Then came the digital strike. $344 million in Iran-linked cryptocurrency, frozen overnight, in a single coordinated action across multiple exchanges. The wallets the IRGC moved to when the banks shut, locked by code instead of warrants. No appeal, no diplomatic channel. Just a flat zero on a screen in Tehran. Picture what is happening behind the closed doors of the regime tonight. A general's wife in Toronto refreshes her account and the balance has flatlined. A regime son in a London penthouse opens his trading app and the access screen will not load. Senior commanders are calling family members in Vancouver, in Frankfurt, in Istanbul, asking what is left, hearing nothing. The men who spent 40 years stealing from Iranian pensioners are watching their personal fortunes erased while they hide in tunnels under the Alborz Mountains. This is the part of the war that does not show up on a satellite image, and it is the part the regime cannot answer. You cannot launch a drone at a frozen wallet. You cannot fire a ballistic missile at a Treasury press release. The IRGC has no doctrine for what is happening to it right now. And so Tehran reached for the only tool it has left, threats. An Iranian lawmaker went on state media and warned the Emirates would be taught a lesson in any future war. Emirati citizens were instructed to take notice. Citizens who had already been taking notice for 60 days as warheads fell on their balconies. The threat backfired the way every Tehran threat has backfired this year, because the Emirates were not negotiating alone anymore. The phone lines opened: Riyadh, Doha, Manama, Kuwait City, Muscat, 6 monarchies, 1 position, 1 signature. The Gulf Cooperation Council convened in Jeddah and rejected Iran's claim of control over the Strait of Hormuz in unison. They rejected the tanker fee scheme outright. The pretense that Tehran owned the waters its neighbors fish in collapsed in a single afternoon meeting. The word the Gulf chose carried weight. Tehran had not heard from its neighbors since the Iran-Iraq War. Illegal. The closure was called illegal in writing. The fees were called illegal in writing. 6 Gulf capitals signed the same paragraph in public. This is the coalition the Islamic Republic spent 4 decades bribing, blackmailing, and infiltrating to prevent, and it formed in 3 weeks. And the Gulf is not just talking. The Habshan to Fujairah pipeline already carries 1.5 million barrels of Emirati crude every day around the Strait of Hormuz, dumping them into the Gulf of Oman, where Iranian fast boats cannot interdict the single tanker. Engineers are studying the expansion to 1.8 million. The Emirates have stated the target out loud: 5 million barrels a day by 2027. No quota, no coordination meeting, no Iranian seat at the table when the production levers are pulled. The Gulf is not planning to share the oil market with Tehran. The Gulf is planning to replace it. Inside the country, the regime claims to rule. The lights are still off. More than 90 million Iranians have been cut off from the global internet by their own government. The leadership of the Islamic Republic is more terrified of an Instagram post from Shiraz than it is of the United States. Navy parked off Bandar Abbas. The blackout itself is bleeding the economy by another $30 to $40 million a day. Layer that on top of the 170 million from Karg, on top of the 9 billion in shadow banking gone in a year, on top of a frozen crypto vault that will not unfreeze. The regime is hemorrhaging from places it does not have the surgeons to close. A leaked memo from inside a Tehran government meeting captured what is being said behind the walls. The presenter told senior managers the country was approaching collapse. He used that phrase twice. Hours later, the leaked note from inside the room read in Persian: "Oh, have mercy on the report writers. The walls of the regime are now thinner than the regime itself, and the people inside know it." Now here's the moment almost no Western newsroom has reported correctly. And it is the moment the entire war turns on. In Islamabad, weeks ago, the American delegation sat down across from Iranian negotiators and put one demand on the table: a 20-year moratorium on uranium enrichment, not a pause, not a freeze, a full generation of nothing. Pakistani officials confirm Washington has signaled a conditional willingness to come down to 10 years. 10 is still a decade. 10 is still longer than the centrifuge cascades the IRGC just lost in the strike campaign. Tehran is being asked to surrender the only card it has left, and the surrender is being engineered slowly, in language that lets the Ayatollah tell the Iranian street he did not lose the war. That last detail is the entire game. The Americans are not gloating. They are letting the regime walk to the cliff in clothing that does not look like surrender on Iranian state television. Because if it looks like surrender, the IRGC hardliners burn the deal and the war restarts with another round of missiles toward Tel Aviv and Manama. So the deal is being shaped to look like a strategic pause to the Iranian public, while functioning as a generational defeat to anyone reading the fine print. So the question the title asked, the question 40 million Americans aged 40 and over are watching this war: can the Islamic Republic survive? What just happened to it? The honest answer, from the names and the numbers and the satellite passes and the Treasury press releases, is that the Islamic Republic as a regional empire ended this Tuesday. The bunkers remain. The slogans on Friday morning, state television remain. The flag remains, but the engine that powered Tehran's reach into Beirut, into Sana'a, into Gaza, into Baghdad, that engine just lost its fuel line, its wiring, its cash, and the room where it negotiated with its richest neighbors. Hezbollah is about to learn what unfunded looks like. The Houthis are about to learn what abandoned looks like. The proxy network the IRGC built across 40 years is being starved one treasury designation at a time. And that is the part of this story that almost nobody is naming out loud. The collapse will not look like a building falling. It will look like a phone call from Beirut to Tehran in 3 months, asking where the next wire transfer is, and getting silence on the other end. It will look like a Houthi commander in Sana'a staring at a depot that does not get resupplied. It will look like an IRGC general's son in London, opening a sealed letter from a British court. The empire ends in silence, not in fire. Tehran has 30 days to decide. Sign the 10-year moratorium and try to govern what is left. Refuse it and watch the rest of the doors weld shut from the outside. Either path lands at the same destination in 2026. The version of the Islamic Republic that has menaced this region since 1979 does not see 2027. Tell me in the comments. Survive or collapse. I am reading every reply, and the next breakdown drops the moment the deal hits the table or the missiles fly again.